My supportive girlfriend demanded half my lottery winnings after I paid for everything. But my lawyer had other plans. My head is still spinning, and honestly, I need to get this all out before I explode. I'm Mark, 32M, and my now ex-girlfriend, Chloe, 30F, just pulled the most audacious, self-serving stunt I've ever witnessed, and I'm still reeling from the sheer audacity of it all. This isn't just a breakup story. It's a saga of manipulation, betrayal, and a whole lot of money. Chloe and I had been together for 5 years. We met at a friend's party, and honestly, in the beginning, she was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, funny, beautiful, and seemingly ambitious. We moved in together after about a year and a half. It was my apartment, a decent two-bedroom I'd bought a few years before we even met. The agreement was that she'd contribute to utilities and groceries, which she did for a while. Over time, her contributions dwindled. First, it was just utilities, then sometimes groceries. Then it was always, I'll get you back next paycheck. Her job, a low-level marketing position, always seemed to be on the verge of either promotion or collapse, depending on what suited her narrative that week. I, on the other hand, had a stable, well-paying job in tech. I enjoyed my work, and I was good at saving. I always envisioned a comfortable future, maybe a family, and I was financially responsible. This, I now realize, made me a target I started covering more and more. Date nights, vacations, even her car repairs when her old clunker broke down for the third time. She'd always have a sob story or a reason why she couldn't contribute. And I, being the supportive boyfriend she constantly praised me for being, would always step up. "You're so good to me, Mark," she'd coo. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I genuinely believed she loved me and appreciated my efforts. I thought we were building a future together, and these were just temporary setbacks for her. I was investing in us. About 6 months ago, my life took an unexpected turn. I've always played the lottery, just small tickets here and there, never expecting anything. One Friday evening, after a particularly draining week, I stopped at the corner store and bought a scratch-off. I took it home, made myself a cup of tea, and sat down to relax. I scratched it, and then I scratched it again, and then I stared. I had won a significant amount. Not quit my job and buy an island money, but enough to drastically change my life. A cool $2 million after taxes that I was ecstatic. My first thought, naturally, was Chloe. I wanted to share the news, to share my joy. I pictured us using it to finally buy a house, maybe start a small business for her, travel the world. I told her that night, my voice practically trembling with excitement. Her reaction was unexpected. She was happy, of course, but there was a flicker in her eyes I couldn't quite place. It wasn't pure joy, more like a calculating glint that we celebrated that night, and the next few weeks were a blur of excitement and planning. I was careful, though. I consulted with a financial advisor, opened a separate account, and slowly started to put things in motion. I kept a tight lid on the exact amount, telling Chloe it was a very substantial sum, but not the exact figure, purely for security reasons. I explained we needed to be smart, invest wisely, and not just blow it all. She seemed to agree, but I noticed a shift in her behavior. She became more possessive, more demanding of my time, and oddly, more critical of my spending habits before the lottery win, as if my past financial responsibility was somehow a flaw now that I had money that I decided to use a portion of the winnings responsibly. I paid off my mortgage, which was a huge relief. I put a significant chunk into diversified investments. And then I wanted to do something nice for Chloe. She had always dreamed of opening a small boutique, selling artisanal crafts. I offered to fund it. I told her I'd give her a generous startup capital, enough to rent a small space, buy inventory, and cover initial operating costs for a year. I'm talking a six-figure sum here, a substantial investment that would have allowed her to pursue her passion without financial stress. Her reaction was, Again, not what I expected. She didn't jump for joy. She looked at me, almost with suspicion. Just for the business? She asked, her voice flat. I explained that yes, it was for her business, her dream, something she had talked about endlessly. She then started hinting, subtly at first, that she deserved more. We're a team, Mark, she'd say. This is our money. This began the slow, agonizing decline of our relationship. Every conversation became about the money. She started making grand plans for her share, plans I hadn't agreed to or even discussed. She wanted expensive trips, designer clothes, a new car for herself, all immediately. When I tried to explain that we needed to be fiscally responsible, that the money wasn't endless, she'd accuse me of being greedy or controlling. One evening, things came to a head. We were having dinner, and she suddenly dropped a bombshell. So, when are you going to put half the lottery money into a joint account? She asked, as if it were a foregone conclusion that I almost choked on my pasta. Chloe, we talked about this. I've already paid off the apartment, invested a lot, and I'm setting up your business. This is my money. I want it, and I'm being incredibly generous. Her eyes narrowed. Generous? Mark, we've been together for 5 years. I've been with you through thick and thin. I've supported you emotionally. I deserve half. Emotionally supported me? Chloe, I've been paying for almost everything for the past 3 years. You haven't contributed to rent, utilities, or even a decent share of groceries in ages. I paid for our vacations, your car repairs, everything. The words just tumbled out, years of suppressed resentment finally bubbling to the surface. She scoffed. And what about the emotional labor, Mark? Do you know how much emotional labor I've put into this relationship? Keeping you happy, listening to your work problems, making this apartment a home. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Making my apartment a home? Chloe, you barely clean. I do most of the cooking, the laundry, everything. What emotional labor are you even talking about? This argument escalated, becoming the nastiest fight we'd ever had. She started yelling about how I was selfish, how I was changing because of the money, how I was punishing her for not being as financially stable as me. She even brought up a few times where she had paid for dinner or a small gift years ago, as if those few instances negated the literal tens of thousands of dollars I'd spent on her. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I knew, deep down, that this wasn't going to work. The money had revealed a side of her I hadn't wanted to see, a sense of entitlement that was truly shocking. I spent the day at a coffee shop, weighing my options. I loved her, or at least the idea of who I thought she was. But this was a different person. When I got home, she was waiting. Her demeanor had shifted. She was calm, almost eerily so. Mark, she said, her voice soft, we need to talk. I've been doing some research. My blood ran cold. Research about what? About common law marriage and spousal support. In our state, after 5 years of living together and presenting ourselves as a couple, I'm entitled to half of all assets acquired during our relationship. She even pulled out some printouts from legal websites that I stared at her, speechless. This wasn't just a fight for a bigger share anymore. This was a calculated legal maneuver. My supportive girlfriend was trying to sue me for half of my lottery winnings. The $2 million I had won was entirely my money, acquired solely by me from a ticket I bought. The thought that she believed she was entitled to half of it because we shared an address was truly mind-boggling. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, instead of going to work, I went straight to a lawyer. I explained the entire situation, from our initial relationship dynamics to her latest demand. The lawyer, a seasoned professional named Sarah, listened patiently, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Mark, she said, first, let's address the common law marriage. While your state does recognize it, the criteria are often much stricter than what people assume. It's not just about living together for X number of years. There needs to be intent to marry, a public representation of yourselves as married, and often commingling of finances in a way that suggests a marital partnership. She paused. From what you've told me, particularly about her lack of financial contribution and your separate accounts, it sounds like you have a strong case against any claim of common law marriage. I felt a sliver of hope. And the lottery money? That's the easiest part, Sarah said with a confident smile. You bought the ticket with your own money, before any claims of common law marriage could even be established, even if they were valid. Any winnings from a lottery ticket purchased solely by one individual, especially when finances are kept largely separate, are almost universally considered separate property. She has no claim to your lottery winnings. A wave of relief washed over me. So what do I do now? We send her a letter, Sarah stated firmly. A very clear, very direct letter. It will outline that there is no basis for a common law marriage claim, that the lottery winnings are your separate property, and that any attempt to pursue this legally will be met with a vigorous defense, and we will pursue her for legal costs. It will also state that she has 30 days to vacate your apartment, as she is a guest and not a tenant with legal rights to tenancy. I authorized her to proceed immediately. Sarah assured me that in her experience, such a clear and concise legal letter often makes people reconsider their aggressive stances. The letter was sent a few days later. I wasn't there when Chloe received it, but I can only imagine the shock on her face. That evening, my phone started ringing off the hook. It was Chloe, and her tone was no longer calm or calculating. It was furious. "What the hell is this, Mark?" she shrieked. "You sent a lawyer after me?" "Chloe," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "you threatened to sue me for half my lottery winnings. What did you expect? I expected you to be reasonable. We can work this out. You don't need to involve lawyers." Her voice was laced with a panicked desperation that was a stark contrast to her earlier confidence. "There's nothing to work out," I replied, feeling a cold resolve settle over me. "My lawyer has made it very clear that you have no claim to my money or my apartment. You have 30 days to move out." She started crying then, genuine sobs this time. "Please, Mark, don't do this. I was just upset. I didn't mean it. I love you. I just got carried away." It was a performance worthy of an Oscar, but I was done. The scales had fallen from my eyes. This wasn't love. It was opportunism. "Chloe," I said, my voice flat, "you showed me exactly who you are, and I believe you." I hung up the phone. It rang a few more times, but I ignored it. I felt a profound sadness, a grief for the relationship I thought I had, but also an immense sense of liberation. The next few weeks were tense. She moved out slowly, dragging her feet, but she did leave. She tried to appeal to my emotions, to our shared past, to all the good times. But every time she did, I remembered her face when she told me she deserved half. Her research into common law marriage, her sudden shift from a supportive partner to a demanding opportunist. I could see was hard, seeing her pack her things, the apartment slowly emptying of her presence. There were moments of doubt, moments where I wondered if I was being too harsh, if I should have just given her a bit more to avoid the drama. But then I'd remember the lawyer's words, her blatant attempt to take advantage, and the doubt would fade. She finally left completely 2 days before the 30-day deadline. The silence in the apartment after she was gone was deafening at first, then incredibly peaceful. I changed the locks immediately. I haven't heard from her directly since, though I know she's been trying to rally our mutual friends, painting me as a heartless villain who abandoned her after winning the lottery. Thankfully, most of our friends know the truth about our financial dynamic and how much I truly supported her, so her narrative isn't gaining much traction. A few have quietly distanced themselves from her, that I'm still processing everything. The betrayal cuts deep, and it's a harsh lesson in trust and vetting partners. But I'm also incredibly grateful I sought legal counsel immediately and didn't give in to her demands. My financial future is secure, and more importantly, my peace of mind is slowly returning. I lost a relationship, but I kept my integrity and my independence. And for that, I'm truly thankful that I'm now focusing on myself, my investments, and yes, I'm still considering helping a friend start a small business, but this time with clear contracts and boundaries. The idea of trusting someone fully again feels daunting, but I know I'll get there. For now, I'm just grateful to be free. What do you all think? Did I handle this correctly? Am I a villain for not just handing her half? I feel like I'm still in shock, and any perspective would be helpful.